Welcome to our school subscribers and to Wendy Porter, our TPN product specialist. Today, Wendy is going to give us some training on school fees collection. 20 years ago, when we started this business, tenants behaved exactly the same way parents behave today. We created a repercussion, and what did this do? Rentals became the #1 priority debt. Given the impact we have had in the tenant market space, we believe we can help our schools to do the exact same thing. Going into lockdown, we looked at how consumers were paying their accounts, and 91% of mortgages were paid up and 81% of tenants were in good standing with their rentals. Then we have secured and unsecured credit facilities, and right at the bottom of this, we have only 65% of consumers who are keeping their short-term loans in current. We can see that the roof over your head is the #1 priority of debt to pay, be it in the form of a mortgage loan or your rental agreement. But it wasn't this way 20 years ago when TPN started. Tenants were absconding in the middle of the night, they were damaging property, and they were simply failing to pay their rental because it was not a big responsibility for them, because there were simply no repercussions in this instance. Right now, if we look at the school fees collection, only 46% of parents are in good standing as far as school fees collection is concerned during lockdown. And yes, given it is during lockdown, but if you look at the history, at its peak, only 69% of parents were in good standing with school fees collections, and this was in December. Now, schools are in a very difficult position because they are unable to cancel the contract midway through the school year. And parents don't prioritize these payments because they are of the opinion that they can catch it up at the end of the year when they receive their bonuses. But at this point, the parents' focus is shifting towards Christmas and holidays and other expenses that arise that don't normally arise through the other 11 months of the year. So what has TPN done? We have created a repercussion for parents. We have made them aware that should you fail to pay your school fees, your credit profile is going to be adversely affected. So it's very important to be aware of how you are paying, so you know that your profile will be affected depending on that. In the past 20 years ago, credit bureaus were focused on collecting credit debt. TPN's focus shifted to collecting tenant data and rentals and how tenants were paying their rentals on a monthly basis. And this is the same intention we have within the school's space. So how does payment profile information work? It lends to the psychology of rewarding people for good behavior. The more you are rewarded for good behavior, the more you want to behave that way. Consumers become aware of the information loaded on their payment profile only once they are applying for credit. They are not aware of the information on their profile, and they only become aware thereof once they apply for credit, and they are unable to do so because they then become aware of how their profile has been affected, even though they are able to apply for a copy of their free credit report once a year. So what does TPN do? We are the only credit bureau in the world who notifies a consumer via SMS how their profile has been updated. So how it works is the schools submit the data to TPN. We then notify the parent that they have paid their school fees on time and in full, and their profile has been positively updated in this regard. What it does is it encourages parents to budget and prioritize these school fee payments on a monthly basis. On the other side of the coin, if the parents are paying late, or they are partially paying, or they are not paying their accounts, they also receive an SMS to say, credit alert, you have not paid your account this month, and your credit profile has been adversely affected in that regard. What this does is It helps parents understand the adverse effect it has on their credit profile if they fail to make payment of school fees on a monthly basis. So the second part in the step is to use the TPN Letter of Demand. This is effective because TPN is a registered credit bureau and we are a registered debt collector. So as the school, it cuts out the admin aspect of it because you don't have to input the information into the letter of demand. You don't have to print it out, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and take it to the post office. TPN manages that process on your behalf. So it is cost effective, it is an efficient process, and you have the backing of a credit bureau to assist you and support you in the collections process. The next step, and the third step, is loading the default listing. So once we get to this point, you know that your parent has been in arrears for 3 consecutive billing cycles. You must then have sent them a letter of demand at this point, and 20 business days must have passed from the date the letter of demand was sent. Once the default listing is loaded, it reflects on TPN and TransUnion. So here you have the benefit of knowing that it is going to it's going to have an effect on your parent applying for credit. It's going to affect them. And this will encourage them to come and settle the account. And this is the risk and the reward. If they settle the account, they have the reward of then having the default listing removed from their credit profile and it no longer reflecting. So going back to those stats, I advised you that we're sitting at 46% of parents in good standing. The next best repayment in that regard is short-term lending, which is sitting at 65%. So as TPN, we are of the firm opinion that if you are submitting your payment profile information and parents are aware of where they are sitting at, if you are sending your letters of demand and you are loading your default listings, we are of the firm opinion that that rate can be improved from 46% to a minimum of 20% up to 65% where short-term lending is currently sitting at. And that is just in the next 12-month period. It can only improve immensely going forward. So I just have a few housekeeping rules. Please just make sure you are logged into the YouTube chat so that you are able to send us your questions and we are able to answer it for you. The feedback form is going to become available in the Q&A session and it will be available 45 minutes thereafter for you to complete and submit to us. And I am the disputes attorney. So if your consumers are logging disputes because of adverse information on their credit profile, I'm the one who investigates that. So if you have any questions, please do type it out to us. We are going to answer the questions throughout the session and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So now over to you, Wendy.
Thanks, Jade. Thank you. Morning, everybody. Welcome. Right, so today's session, as Jade said, we're going to talk about the steps that one needs to follow in terms of improving your school fee collections. And the heart of that information is your data. You need to be loading your data onto the Bureau in order for those SMSs to go out, excuse me, with regards to school fee payments. Some of the school billing systems we integrate with, one of which is D6+. So it's not your D6 communicator, it's the D6+, in other words, the financial module of D6. So you obviously capture all your parents' information on, and every month you're allocating how the parents have or have not paid. We then are able to collect all that data and load it onto the TPN system, in which we will then send out the SMSs to the parents on their payment behavior. The other billing system that we use, at least that we integrate with, is Kids Cloud. And again, we're able to export the information, load it onto the TPN system, and that then in turn saves a lot of time in terms of you having to manually load your parents' information on, and of course manually updating every month how parents have or have not paid. EduPack, I know quite a few of you in my last webinar had a lot of questions regarding EduPack. I can tell you from our previous webinar till now, we are nearing completion with regards to the development of EduPack. And once it is complete, I will be sure to send out all you EduPack members to say, right, we are now able to load your data electronically. For those of you that use Pastel Partner, but only version 14 and up, or Pastel Evolution, we may be able to export the data depending on how you use your Pastel system, how you do the billing side of it. But that's obviously a testing phase. We'd have to test the data first and then to see if it will work or not. Then for those of you that do not use billing systems that we integrate with, you are going to have to manually load your data. It sounds like an ominous task, but once you have gotten used to the system, it actually goes quite quickly. I mean, myself, I can load a parent information in 30 seconds, but it's because I know the system well, but you will eventually get to that point. So what you do then is you log onto the TPN system and you click on the heading My Data. On the left-hand side, add new record. And please, for schools, you must choose the very bottom option, which is a school data account. Don't choose the normal data account, only the school. Click Next. Are you loading a parent with an ID number? Has the parent got a passport number? So you select which option is relevant. Click Next. Fill in the parent's address. Next. And then you'll notice on this page there's quite a few fields of information. My suggestion is when you are loading the information on each page, don't fill anything into the fields. Leave it all blank. Scroll down to the bottom and click the Next button. Then what will happen is the system highlights in red the mandatory fields that needs to be filled in. I can tell you on this page it's name, surname, and cell phone number. However, if you have your parent's email address, fill it in here, because when it comes to sending welcome letters or, like Jade mentioned, letters of demand, the email address will be pulled through at that point, that we can then use that as an additional delivery method to send out the letters. Right, so once you've filled in that, click Next. And then this here, is it an active parent or is it an inactive parent? Select which option is appropriate. This account number is not the parent's banking account number. I've been asked that a few times. No, it is the account number that the parent has with you. So however you refer to the parent, be it the child's name or an official account number, you will fill it in there. The open date is the date the parent became a parent of the school. If it's an inactive account, the system will then ask you to fill in a close date. Repayment due, how do they pay? Do they pay in monthly installments? Do they pay termly? Whatever it might be. Repayment method, do they pay you EFT, debit order, cash, whatever it is. And then, of course, your amount due is not the amount that the parent owes as a total. It is the school fee amount that the parent is supposed to pay on a monthly basis. So if your school fees are 2,000 Rand a month, 2,000 Rand is going to go into that field. Once you've clicked Finish, you will notice all your parents will be listed one after the other. If we have electronically imported your data, again, under the My Data section, all your parents will be loaded. So step one in the process would be to send a welcome letter. It's free of charge, printed on a TPN letterhead, and basically what the welcome letter informs your parents is you as a school are a member of us being a registered credit bureau. And really how they behave in terms of their school fee payments is either going to positively or negatively impact their credit profile. And it forewarns them, if you don't pay, there's a chance you can get blacklisted for that. So right from the word go, the parents know and understand this is the system you use. This is what is going to happen on a monthly basis. I'm going to be receiving my SMSs. And of course, if I don't pay, there is consequences. Like we teach our children, there's consequences to bad behavior. We've got to teach our parents the same thing. Right, so once you've loaded your parent data, in order to open the record, you click on the reference number that is underlined. That then opens up the actual record. From here, you can then go and send your welcome letter. You can either click on the left, letters, or here in the heading letters with that little number, open it up there. Right at the bottom, send a new letter. And the system here will list all the different letters we have available to you. Right at the bottom is your school welcome letter. Once and you can see here it's free, no charge. Out goes your welcome letter, and that's great, all fine and well, sending out the welcome letter, telling the parent what this is all about. But if you don't follow through with what you told them you were going to do, it's actually pointless. So therefore, you need to go and update your payment flags in order for the parent to get those SMSs, because that's what you said you're going to do in your welcome letter. So what you will then do there is under payments, this is where you go and update every month's payment flag. You simply click the drop down arrow, and for the month of August, how did the parent pay their school fees? Did they pay on time? Did they pay late? Was it a partial payment, or did they just not pay at all? Once you've selected the option and you click save, at this point the SMS goes out. Your school's telephone number appears on the SMS, and that's great. Please warn your receptionists that your phone lines are going to be busy, but that's exactly what you want. You want the parents to phone in. A lot of parents will phone in and say, oh, but why have I got this SMS from the credit bureau? I paid my school fees on time. Then you say to them, we are rewarding you for good behavior. And once they realize every month they're getting this, your credit profile has been positively updated, it encourages them to continue with those on-time and in full payments. And that obviously as a school is first prize for you guys. You don't have to make those outgoing phone calls. You don't have to run after parents and beg and plead for your school fee money. On the flip side, if a parent partially pays or does not pay or continuously pays late because they feel they just can, you will notice that once they start receiving this SMS to say your credit profile is adversely affected, they realize their credit profile is being negatively affected. We're all consumers. We all know and understand we have to keep our credit profile clean, neat and tidy. If there's any negative information on our credit profile, we know it hinders us later on when we are trying to apply for further credit or services. So generally consumers want their credit profile to be on the positive side. So for the parents that don't pay or partially pay, you will then notice they will start changing their payment behavior to pay it on time, because this SMS creates that awareness in their mind all the time. I mean, think for yourselves, if you received an SMS from TransUnion to say that your vehicle finance payment was a did not pay and your credit profile is negative, what are you going to do? I can promise you, you're going to pick up that phone, you're going to phone WesBank, and you're going to say, I promise I'm going to pay you next month. And next month you are going to pay them because you know that you are being watched and monitored. And this is the power of payment profile. Right, so that's the second step in the process. The third step is, look, we don't live in a perfect world. Some of the parents, these payment SMSs will just go over their heads, but it's fine. Then you can go and send them a letter of demand. Because once they've received the letter of demand, they realize, actually, you are meaning business. No messing around here. Again, you will open the parent's record, click on letters, just the same as we did with the school welcome letter. You will click on letters, send a new letter, and of course, again, it will list all the different letters that we have on the system. Sorry, I went into the wrong record. Just bear with me. Right, send a new letter. And of course, for private schools, you will select the option that says Letter of Demand for private schools. There are two different ones. One is 55 and one is 85. The difference being one goes out normal post and the other one goes out registered post. As well as we send the parent an SMS. And of course, if you filled in their email address when you loaded the record, we're going to email them that letter of demand as well. For public schools, your letter of demand is a bit different because obviously we have to include Section 41 of the Schools Act in your letters of demand. And it has to go out registered post. But with that, on the TPN system, you can then also track exactly where that letter of demand is. And of course, when you go to court and you apply for judgment, they're going to want to look at that tracking number as well to prove that you actually did follow the rules in terms of the Schools Act. Right, so you'll select whichever letter is appropriate for your school. This term is very important. If you click the drop-down arrow, a fixed term contract is where the parent is in their first year with the school. That is regarded as a fixed term contract. When the child goes over to the next grade and the next grade and the next grade, that then becomes a month-to-month contract. And it is important to choose the correct one because this letter will be in line with the Consumer Protection Act. It will ask you the school board, so you're the school board. You are a juristic entity. You're a business. Be it public or private, you're a business. The parent is a natural person. You'll click the validate button and that will ensure the correct letter of demand goes out in terms of law with regards to the different acts that apply. Default date will obviously be the date that the parent defaulted on. This amount due field is the total amount that the parent owes you. For public schools, it would be, if it's 45,000, you'll put in 45,000. However, for private schools, you're a bit more lucky. You can include the cost that we're charging you for this letter. You can include on the amount that the parent owes you. Sorry, public schools. Your name and your telephone number will appear there. And then, of course, if you have not updated your payment flags, here when you send the letter of demand, you will see it will ask you to update the last 6 months of the payment flags. Post and SMS, as mentioned, we always post the letter out on your behalf to the parent. And of course, we send them that one-line SMS. Here, we will always email the letter of demand as well if you have filled in that email address. And you always get CC'd a copy of that letter of demand for your records. Tick the box that says, yes, I confirm this letter is going to cost me 55 or 85, whatever it is, and out it goes. The minute you receive your emailed copy, then you know the parent has received their emailed copy as well as the SMS. Obviously, the post takes a bit longer. So that would be the third step. And of course, then the last step in the process is, should they not pay after letter of demand, you can then go and load an adverse listing against their profile. Bearing in mind, as Jade mentioned at the beginning, when you send a letter of demand, you've got to wait 20 business days and the parent has to be 3 consecutive billing cycles in arrears. And what's regarded as arrears is either a partial payment flag or a did not pay. So you've got to have 3 consecutive arrears payments and then you can go and load the default listing. Again, you will click on the left-hand side under Blacklistings. Send, I beg your pardon, sorry. Listings, over here, listings. And then you will add a new default listing record. Where you have the default date will be the day that you are loading that default. You're not going to backdate it because default information remains on a credit bureau for a period of 12 months, and then automatically it comes off. So whatever day you load in the default, that's the date you're going to use. The rating, always choose the final notice option under the bold heading TPN and TransUnion. Tick the box that says list on TransUnion, and again the full amount that they owe you. The reason, this block is free typing. You can non-payment of school fees, whatever you want to type in there. And again, if you haven't loaded your payment flags for the last 6 months, it will ask you here to load that information. Tick the box for National Credit Act. Yes, I have given my person the 20 business days, etc. And save listing. With regards to where you have 2 parents for one account, for one child in other words, under your My Data heading, once we have loaded or you have loaded the first parent's details, you will notice here, when you open the record, it says add another parent. There is where you're going to go and load the second parent's details. Okay, so once all your data has been loaded, when you click on your dashboard, here is where you can see at a glance what your school fee debtors book looks like. In the event that you have updated those payment flags and the system picks up you updated September's payment flag as did not pay, automatically the system sees that as that person should be receiving a letter of demand because clearly they're in default. Here under letters of demand required, it will give you a number. That's the number of parents that the system can see there is arrears payments. You then click on that link and it'll list the parents that should be getting a letter of demand. You're not forced to go and send all of them a letter of demand. You can choose which ones you are going, because some schools have arrangements with parents, etc., etc. But here at least it'll give you a heads up of who should be receiving a letter of demand. Similarly, if you have sent a letter of demand and the system, you've updated your payment flags, the system can see there are 3 consecutive billing cycles in arrears. The system then recognizes that as that individual should now be blacklisted. So again, under your dashboard section, it will prompt you blacklistings required, and again it'll list those parents that should be loaded as adverse information on the bureaus. I think that covers it. Yes, so I've gone through the school fee collection process, loading of data, welcome letters, payment profile update flags, letters of demand, default listings. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure we have a lot of questions. I know Jade has been answering a few, but we are now going to do our Q&A session. Just a reminder for those, when you subscribe to TPN's YouTube, please make sure you click on the bell so that in future you get all notifications of all future webinars for schools that we're going to have. Thanks, ladies and gents.
Hi, Wendy. We have a question from Michael van Aswegen. He would like to know if there's any update on EdAdmin joining TPN.
Again, it was a question that came up last week. We have approached them, and when it came up last week, I tried to get hold of them again, but unsuccessfully. If one of you can put me in contact and we can get the ball rolling, you know, the more you push from your side for your billing systems to integrate with us, the easier it is for us and for you. So push from your side and I push from our side, and I'm sure together we're going to get to the point of D6 and Kids Cloud where we're at now.
Okay. Then we have a question from Robert Blackshaw. How far back can we go and update payment history? And how far back can we send letters of demand or blacklisting for payments that were not made?
So with regards to loading your parents' data, you can go as far back. Remember when we added the new record, it asked for an open date. That open date can go as far back in time. With regards to the payment flags for school fee data, that information is displayed on our credit bureau for 5 years. So as 1 month drops off, the next month comes on. Sorry, Jade, what was the second part of the question?
How far back can we send letters of demand or blacklisting for payments that were not made?
So debt prescribes for a period of 3 years. So you can go as far back as 3 years to try and collect outstanding school fee payments. Further back than that, you wouldn't be you would have to write that off, because you can only collect for a period of 3 years.
We then have a question from LBZ Mob. For those who want to apply for COVID relief, how will I verify that they were not getting any income if they are self-employed?
We have a school recovery pack on TPN, which you can use for that particular purpose. And in there is supporting documentation that the parent is going to have to send to you. My suggestion is my husband is self-employed. My suggestion is, part of that process, you ask for bank statements. That's going to help you prove if there was income or if there wasn't. It's difficult with self-employed individuals, but again, you have to verify what you can. So have a look on TPN's website under the school fee recovery pack. You can use that. It's free, and everything, all the documentation is in that pack for you to use.
Thank you, Wendy. We have another question from LBZ Mob. There's 2 questions here. In terms of capturing data, if a parent has 2 children with different account numbers, what do we do?
So you would have to then, if it's 2 separate account numbers, even though it's children from the same family, there you have to load 2 separate records on the TPN system. One for child number 1 and the second one for child number 2.
Okay, the next question is, in terms of the SMS, what if the parent has changed the number and didn't inform the school? Will TPN still be able to trace the number?
You can perform trace inquiries. In fact, we did cover it in my previous webinar, but for the purposes of today, I'll just take you through it quickly. If you click on credit checks, and you will select the third option down that says perform a new consumer trace inquiry, you will select that option, and on the left you will select telephone number, and there you can search under the previous cell number that you had. You will put that cell number in, and when you click next, it will bring updated contact details of that particular parent. So then you can go and have a look at their most recent cell number that they have. But it's very important for you guys to make sure at the beginning of the year, I'm sure most of you do, but make sure at the beginning of the year you send out an updated information document that the parents can fill in with the updated information.
Thank you, Wendy. Next question is from Rosemary Paul. What will happen if the parents are in such a position that they just don't care about their profile?
Hello, Rose. How are you doing? So yes, a lot of consumers, they think, oh, well, I've got 12 pages of default listings. Another default is not going to, it's not going to worry me. However, you must remember that default information, as I mentioned, retention period is for 12 months. So it could be that this consumer's latest default is just about to fall off the credit bureau system. But now, Rose, you come along and you add another default. So this particular parent will think, okay, well, that's great. I'm at the point now where my last default is falling off. I can go back into the credit marketplace and go and rack up some more credit. But now you come along and you go and load your default. Again, they stumped for another 12 months where they've got to wait. They can't obtain further credit. They can't obtain rent. They can't put their child in another school, because each time they try and do that, what happens? A credit check is done, and boom, up comes that information.
Okay, to our school subscribers, we have posted the feedback form, so please complete it. It will be available for 45 minutes after the session. Wendy, the next question is, and it comes from Ilse van Rooyen. Can you load more than one email address per account?
So if you have a mom and a dad, if I'm understanding this correctly, you've got a mom and a dad under one account. When you load the second parent's details, the first parent you're going to load with the father's email address as an example, and when you add the second parent's details, you're going to load the mother's email address. So you can.
Pikkewyntjies Kleuterschool would like to know if Kidsoft is linked to TPN.
It is not. We are in talks with Marco. We have been for quite some time. The last update that we had, the IT developer was still busy with development, but I can tell you we're nowhere near completing integration with Kidsoft.
LBZ Mob would like to know if it is possible to load debtors that have left the school without concern.
So you can load a parent's details onto the TPN system, albeit that they're an inactive parent of yours. When you load the information, you'll load it as an inactive account, but remember you still can create a profile for that parent by updating the payment flags. And then of course, if the debt has not prescribed, you can still then send a letter of demand and load default information against the parent.
Thanks, Wendy. Ravashni Ramadar would like to know, can we negatively upload parents that have applied for exemptions?
It depends when the exemption was granted. We had a case where the parent's information was loaded, and for the first 6 months of the year, the parent did not apply for an exemption, but also didn't pay their school fees. So for 6 months, from January to June, the payment flag on TPN was did not pay. Then in July, the parent applied for an exemption and got a full exemption. So from July till the end of that year, his payment flags was paid on time. Then the school said to me, but because he got a full exemption for the whole year, can't we go and update January to June's payment flags from did not pay to paid on time? And I said to them, factually, you can't do that because factually, for the first 6 months, he did not apply for an exemption and did not pay. Therefore, the payment flags remain as did not pay for the first 6 months. Does that answer the question?
It does, thank you. Michael van Aswegen asks, do parents have to give permission and sign something for us to update their payment profile?
Not at all. So you don't need consent from parents to load the information onto a credit bureau, and you don't need consent to update their payment flags.
Pauline Grobler would like to know, where can we find the consent form which we need for parents to sign in order to do a check on them?
So you can email our help desk, or which is helpdesk@tpn.co.za. Or if you want, you can email me, wendy@tpn.co.za, and I will forward you those consent forms to do the credit checks, because there you will need consent.
Thank you, Wendy. That consent is very important. Ilse van Rooyen would like to know, she's asking, before we joined TPN, we handed some accounts over to an attorney. We didn't receive any feedback. Can we load them now and follow the procedures on TPN?
You absolutely can, so long as the debt hasn't prescribed.
Thank you, Wendy. And then a last question from Yolanda. If a default was loaded on a parent and they pay everything up, can the default be cancelled?
It must be deleted if the parent has paid in full. I've had a case where a default was loaded for, I think it was 4,000 Rand, whatever it was, on a parent, and they tootled off to the school and said to the school, I am going to apply for finance. I think they were applying for a car or something, I forget. And they then said, I'm going to pay you 3,500 Rand now, although I owe you 4,000. I promise I'm going to come next week and pay you the extra 500. Well, of course, the school didn't see that other 500 Rand. So my suggestion is, when you are removing default information, make sure that the parent has paid the full amount owing. Unless, of course, you agree, okay, fine, the parent, you owe 10,000, we're happy to accept 7. but then you still need to remove that default if it's within the first 12 months that default was loaded.
I have no more questions on my side. To our school subscribers, please don't forget to fill out our feedback form. Thanks, Wendy.
It's my pleasure. Have a good week, ladies and gents. Thank you.